I testified at the Senate hearing on a number of concerns, and I think that's primarily how I happen to be involved in this right now. If it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, I'll just go step by step through my concerns that I explained to the Senate committee and to some others kind of through the course of the last couple months.
That would be very good.
My primary goal in this is, well, I suppose to help you understand the point of view from which I come. I'm very much supportive of the legislation and the governor's position. So my point of view is to end up with something that accomplishes the purposes as they're stated in the statute. So my comments are from that point of view. But going step by step through the legislation, some of the concerns that I had as someone representing a potential site is I worry that while the statute, I believe, intends a fair and objective process, sometimes it doesn't actually work out that way. So some of the specific concerns that I had were, first off, and I do have, I don't know if it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, I do have a list of, kind of helps myself, but it may help others as well, some specific language and sections, if that's helpful.
Absolutely.
May I hand them out?
Oh, you may. Oh, give them further.
I think I do, yes.
If you don't, we have a copying machine, right? Let's see if you can find it.
So, kind of stepping back, some of these comments you'll see are probably not controversial at all, and I suppose this is sort of an apology up front. Being a lawyer, I tend to worry about some of the details, perhaps maybe more than I should. But one of the concerns I had is right up front. It seems to me that we want to make it clear that the statute actually gives exclusive authority for not only issuing a license and regulation of the lottery machines, but also picking a site and a proposal that best serves the state of New Hampshire. So I like to come right out and say that. I think it's more than just issuing a license for lottery machines. It is an effort to end up with an economic development program, if you will, a proposal that promotes the economic development of the state of New Hampshire, so that the actual location is an important consideration. So that was kind of the comment on the first comment there. Number 2 and number 3 support that same comment. I think that we've had some concerns over the state of New Hampshire has had some concerns over the last couple of years where sometimes the standards aren't explicitly stated, and it ends up with some difficulties along the way. So again, I think those are kind of housekeeping, I'll call it, but important nonetheless. Under the comment on number 4 is the one that Representative Hess brought up at the last hearing, and And that's about the whole notion that right now, of course, every town and city's zoning ordinance does not allow gambling of any sort. And it is a land use issue. So that language there in number 4 proposes a modification to 284B10D, which makes it clear that the referendum that is required in this process also serves as the rezoning, if you will, and the confirmation by the local community that zoning is appropriate. It's just an effort at some words that accomplish that purpose, but I think the issue is important in that right now, in a land use sense, of course, there is no zoning gambling permitted. Number 5 is a concern, and that relates to the time. This is another comment that I made at the more general hearing. One of the worries that we have as an applicant or someone that will likely submit a proposal is that we want to make sure that the time is practical and enables a reasonable effort. Keeping in mind the goals of the state of New Hampshire to get basically the license fees in this biennium, we want to balance that, or I suggest that it's worth trying to balance that time restriction with the bigger goal of ending up with the best project that you can, and with one that is bid. There are bids from a number of good prospects. The concern that we had in the first go-around is that the time constraints are too tight. I think they called for 90 days after the request of proposals from the Lottery Commission. There are a number of very strong potential bidders that are in Massachusetts and have an interest in Massachusetts now. As a practical matter, I believe there are 11 that are vying for about 3 licenses. But as a practical matter, until those 11, or we'll say the 8 who are not going to be licensees, until they have reached a point in their present process with Massachusetts, until they know what's going to happen, they're not likely to get involved in New Hampshire in a very public way, just for practical reasons. It's very difficult for them to have an application here in New Hampshire when they have a pending application in Mass. So in an effort to kind of balance all of those interests, I would suggest that the time be modified. Now, my date is, I threw in the date of April 30. The reason I put that in there is I think a number of things. First, the more time there is, the more likely you have a fair process, the more likely you have more bidders. The second thing, by that April 30th date, there would be ample time to make a decision after receiving those applications.